All right, welcome back to Bible Study with Tad Inoue, and we're in Genesis chapter 27. Today's key topics are Isaac plans to bless Esau, Rebekah's deception, Jacob receives the blessing, Esau's bitterness, and Isaac sends Jacob away. Genesis chapter 27, we're reading from the NIV version. When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son, here I am." He answered. Isaac said, "I am now old, an old man, and don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your equipment, your quiver, and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like and bring it to me to eat, so that I may give you my blessing before I die." Now Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, 'Bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat, so I may give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die.' Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats, so I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat, so that he may give you his blessing before he dies." Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man, while I have smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him and would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing." His mother said to him, "My son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say. Go and get them for me." So he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and she prepared some tasty food, just the way his father liked it. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with goat skins. Then she handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. He went to his father and said, "My father." "Yes, my son," he answered. "Who is this? Who is it?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your blessing." Isaac asked his son, "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" "The Lord your God gave me success," he replied. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come near so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not." Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau. So he proceeded to bless him. "Are you really my son Esau?" he said. "I am," he replied. Then he said, "My son, bring me some of your game to eat, so that I may give you my blessing." Jacob brought it to him, and he ate. And he brought some wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come here, my son, and kiss me." So he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you the heavens dew. May God give you the heavens dew and the earth's richness, and abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you, and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed." After Isaac finished blessing him, and Jacob had scarcely left his father's presence, his brother Esau came in from hunting. He too prepared some tasty food and brought it to his father. Then he said to him, "My father, please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your blessing." His father Isaac asked him, "Who are you?" I am your son," he answered, "your firstborn Esau." Isaac trembled violently and said, "Who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it just before you came, and I blessed him." and indeed he will be blessed. When Esau heard his father's words, he burst out with a loud and bitter cry and said to his father, "Bless me, me too, my father." But he said, "Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing." Esau said, "Isn't he rightly named Jacob? This is the second time he has taken advantage of me. He took my birthright, and now he's taken my blessing." Then he asked, "Haven't you reserved any blessing for me?" Isaac answered Esau, "I have made him lord over you and have made all his relatives his servants, and I have sustained him with grain and new wine. So what can I possibly do for you, my son?" Esau said to his father, Do you have one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father." Then Esau wept aloud. His father Isaac answered him, "Your dwelling will be away from the earth's richness, away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by the sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke off from your neck." Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. He said to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are near. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." When Rebekah was told what her older son Esau had said, she sent for her younger son Jacob and said to him, "Your brother Esau is planning to avenge himself by killing you. Now then, my son, do what I say. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay with him for a while until your brother's fury subsides. When your brother is no longer angry with you and forgets what you did to him, I'll send word for you to come back from there. Why should I lose both of you in one day?" Then Rebekah said to Isaac, "I'm disgusted with living because of these Hittite women. If Jacob takes a wife from among the women of this land, from Hittite women like these, my life will not be worth living." Now for the deep dive, Genesis 27. Isaac plans to bless Esau right from the start. We're thrown into a moment of family tension. Isaac is old and blind. He thinks he's near death, so he calls Esau to prepare a meal and receive his blessing. Now, this blessing isn't just a casual word of encouragement. It's a formal spiritual pronouncement of destiny, inheritance, and covenantal responsibility. In ancient Hebrew culture, this blessing could set the trajectory of a person's future. Isaac's intention to bless Esau privately without involving Rebekah or Jacob is telling. We know from earlier chapters that God already told Rebekah, the older will serve the younger. Isaac seems to be going against that divine word. Maybe it's favoritism, maybe it's tradition. Either way, it sets up a conflict between divine promise and human preference. In Hebrew, the word for blessing, barakah, carries the idea of divine favor, abundance, and covenant passing from one generation to the next. Isaac's attempt to bless Esau wasn't just a family decision, it was a theological one, and it highlights the tension between what God has ordained and what people try to control. Now, Rebekah's deception. Rebekah overhears Isaac's plan and acts quickly to secure the blessing for Jacob. Let's be honest, this part is hard. She schemes, deceives, and manipulates. But here's where we need to step back into her world for a minute. Rebekah isn't just being sneaky. She's acting out of conviction that God's promise must be fulfilled, and she believes Jacob is the one. In ancient culture, women weren't given much voice or authority, but Rebekah boldly steps into this moment to shape the future of the covenant family. She covers Jacob in goat skins, dresses him in Esau's clothes, and coaches him in how to deceive his father. This isn't just trickery, it's identity manipulation. In Hebrew, though, the name and appearance of a person were deeply tied to their essence. So Rebekah's actions raise the question, is it ever right to do the wrong thing for the right reason? The Hebrew word for deceit here, used here, ramah, suggests betrayal in craftiness. Rebekah is choosing expediency over trust. She doesn't wait for God to work things out. She makes it happen herself. And yet, paradoxically, God still works through her flawed efforts. That's one of the deep tensions in this chapter. Divine sovereignty meets human messiness. Jacob receives the blessing. This scene is full of drama and irony. Isaac, old, blind, suspicious, asks a series of questions. Who are you, my son? Are you really my son, Esau? You can feel the tension. Jacob lies multiple times, and yet Isaac finally gives the blessing. And this blessing is powerful. It includes dominion, abundance, and superiority over nations and even over his brother in 27:28-29. It echoes the promises to Abraham, but it also carries a tone of royal authority. In ancient Semitic culture, once a blessing like this was spoken, it couldn't be taken back. It had legal, spiritual, and prophetic weight. The Hebrew verb for bless, barak, is repeated over and over in this chapter. There's an urgency to it. Even though it was given through deceit, it is binding. And that's part of the mystery. God honors the spoken word, even when it's wrapped in brokenness. Jacob receives the blessing, but notice he gains it through fear and fraud, and not through faith. This sets him on a long, painful journey. He'll spend years learning that God's promises don't require manipulation, they require trust. Esau's bitterness. When Esau returns and finds out that the blessing has been stolen, his reaction is deeply emotional. The Hebrew says he cried out with exceedingly great and bitter cry. Tasa'ak gindola umera. It's a cry of heartbreak and betrayal. This is one of the most vulnerable scenes in Genesis. Esau isn't angry. He is shattered. He's broken. He pleads with Isaac, do you have only one blessing? It's the voice of someone who realizes he's been left out of something sacred. Isaac's answer confirms that the blessing was irrevocable. Even though Esau would still be a great people, he would live by the sword and serve his brother. Esau's tears aren't just about losing an inheritance. They're about losing identity, belonging, and the favor he expected to receive. This pain carries into the New Testament. Hebrews 12:16-17 says Esau found no chance to repent, though he sought it with tears. That doesn't mean he wasn't forgiven. It means the consequences of the choice couldn't be undone. This reminds us, some choices carry weight far beyond the moment. Trading the birthright may have seemed like trivial then, but it changed everything. Isaac sends Jacob away. After the blessing, Rebekah hears Esau's threat and urges Isaac to send Jacob away. On the surface, she says it's about finding a good wife, but it's really about protection. Isaac agrees, and this time he blesses Jacob knowingly and willingly, sending him to find a wife for Rebekah's family. This second blessing is important. It's not a trick this time. Isaac now acts in line with God's plan, blessing Jacob with the blessing given to Abraham. Verse 4, he seems to accept finally that Jacob, not Esau, is the one chosen by God. This moment begins Jacob's transformation. He's no longer hiding or pretending. He's starting a journey towards becoming Israel, the father of the 12 tribes. But it won't be easy. He'll face deception, exile, and wrestling with both humans and with God. This chapter leaves us sitting with tension. God's plan moves forward through human failure. Isaac favors the wrong son. Rebekah uses deceit. Jacob lies. Esau grieves. And yet God's covenant continues. Now for some Hebrew translational notes. Berakah, blessing. This word is central to the entire chapter. Berakah means more than just a kind of wish. It's a formal evocation of divine favor, often tied to prosperity, authority, and legacy. In ancient Hebrew thought, blessings were powerful and binding, especially when spoken by a patriarch. Once Isaac speaks the blessing over Jacob, even through deception, it cannot be revoked. See in verse 33. This underscores the weight that the spoken word carried in the Hebrew worldview. Words were seen as active forces, not just symbolic. Tisa'ak, Gindola Umara, a great and bitter cry. Esau's emotional outburst in verse 34 uses this vivid Hebrew phrase, Teska. It's a cry of distress, often found in moments of grief, oppression, or divine appeal. Gondola means great and Merach means bitter. Together, this phrase conveys deep anguish, the kind of emotional pain that pierces the soul. This isn't anger, it's devastation. The Hebrew highlights how deeply Esau felt the loss, not just of a blessing, but of something essential, his place in the family narrative. Ramayim, deceivers, from the root Ramah. While this specific form doesn't appear in the chapter, the concept of deceit, Ramah, runs through it. Rebekah and Jacob's scheme is rooted in trickery. In Hebrew thought, deceit wasn't just a moral issue. It was a relational betrayal. And interestingly, the term Ramah shows up later in Jacob's story. He himself will be deceived by Laban. It's as if what was sown is later reaped, hinting at the thematic reversal in the narrative arc. Yaakov, or Jacob, from Ekev, meaning heel or to overreach. The name Jacob is tied to his grasping Esau's heel at birth in Genesis 25:26. But here it takes on new depth. In verse 36, Esau says, "Isn't he rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these two times." The Hebrew root akav means to follow, to trip up, or to overreach. Esau is interpreting Jacob's name as a prophetic marker of his character, someone who manipulates and takes by craft. This reflects how in Hebrew tradition names often capture the essence or the destiny of a person. Mishparcha, family or clan. This term underlies the social structure throughout Genesis, though not prominent in this specific chapter. The idea of mishpacha is what the blessing is to preserve and guide. The head of the household carried the authority to shape generations, and this authority was transmitted primarily through the spoken blessing. That's what's really at stake here. It's not just two brothers fighting over dad's words. It's the spiritual future of a people. Shemin and Dagan, oil and grain. Isaac's blessing includes promises of material provision. May God give of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain, dagan, and wine. These agricultural terms reflect covenant abundance. In Hebrew symbolism, oil or shemen and grain often represent not just survival, but thriving in the land. This is a covenant language tied to the promise, to the land promised, pointing back to Eden and forward to the promised land. Elohim, God, in verse 28 and 20. When Isaac invokes God in his blessing, and when Jacob uses the name in his deception, because the Lord your God gave me success, the name Elohim is used. It's the generic name for God, highlighting divine power and sovereignty, not intimacy. Contrast this with Yahweh, which is used more in covenantal relational settings. Jacob's choice of Elohim in verse 20 could hint at a lack of deep personal relationship with God. He refers to your God, not my God. It's a subtle detail that may suggest Jacob isn't yet spiritually grounded, something that will change later in the story. Now for some non-biblical resources and thinkers. Alter Robert, The Art of Biblical Narrative in New York, Basic Books, 1981. Robert Alter, a literary scholar of the Hebrew Bible, explores the literary sophistication of biblical storytelling. In his analysis of Genesis 27, Alter emphasizes the subtle irony and moral ambiguity of the narrative. He shows how Jacob's deception is portrayed not as a simple villainy, but as a part of a complex unfolding of a divine providence. The sensory motifs, Isaac's blindness, Esau's texture, the smell of the field, are rich with narrative purpose, pointing to a deeper tension between appearances and reality, and between human schemes and divine plans. Number 2, Walter Brueggemann, Genesis Interpretation, a Bible Commentary for Teaching and Preaching, Atlanta, John Knox Press, in 1982. Brueggemann's theological lens focuses on the tension between human initiative and divine sovereignty. In Genesis 27, he interprets the blessing of Jacob as a critical moment in Israel's self-understanding, where God's promise moves forward even through deeply flawed human relationships. Brueggemann insists this chapter challenges modern notions of justice. The blessing cannot be revoked, and God's plan unfolds even through deception. He explores how blessing is more than words. It's a theological act with irreversible power. And Susan Nadich, A Prelude to Biblical Folklore, Underdogs and Tricksters, Urbana University of Illinois Press, 2000. Nadich focuses on the folkloric and cultural roles of tricksters in the ancient narratives. She analyzes Jacob as the classic trickster figure, comparing him to other cultural heroes who gain favor through cunning. In Genesis 27, Jacob's actions are framed within a border of anthropological pattern where cleverness and subversion serve as survival tools for the marginalized. She also notes that the blessing scene reveals deep family dysfunction, generational favoritism, and the fragility of trust. Her work helps modern readers understand the function and appeal of these complex characters in the storytelling traditions of the ancient Near East. Reflection. Now here's some more reflection questions for Genesis 27. Number 1, what does this story teach? What does this story teach us about how God works through broken relationships and flawed decisions? In what ways does God's sovereignty remain active even when people act out of deceit, favoritism, or manipulation? And number 2, how do I speak blessing and approval in my own life? Am I trusting God to affirm my identity, or am I trying to secure the blessing through my own efforts or performance? Now for our closing prayer. Father, in a world where deception, striving, and brokenness often touch even the closest relationships, we thank you that your purpose still prevails. Like Jacob, we often try to force what you have already promised. Forgive us when we chase blessing through manipulation or fear. Teach us to trust in your timing and provision. Heal the wounded parts of our hearts that feel unseen and unloved. And just as you stayed with Jacob through his struggles, stay with us and remind us that you're always there. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Well, thanks for joining me for another chapter, and we'll be back for the next chapter tomorrow, and I will also be back for continuing the discussion, so stay tuned for that if you want to watch that video as well. It'll be a few minutes, and I'll have that video, and we'll dig a little deeper into some other types of topics that I haven't covered here that are relevant to this chapter. So thank you very much, and stay tuned for tomorrow.